Hey everyone, it's DH here and welcome back to Europe in Detail. We are currently in the Swiss Alps and in this episode we are going to build a really unique functioning park attraction on some pretty near impossible terrain. So let's move away from our little town a little wee bit here and go over to the Stubach Falls area, and the first thing that we're going to need here is a car park. This is also going to function in real life as our attraction is going to draw people here. I'm hoping a lot of people walk, but obviously some people are going to want to drive. And this will also be where our trail starts from. That's going to eventually lead up to our attraction. I place another small road here jutting off to the side that's going to give access to that car park. Next, I'd like to move on to detailing the road bridge that's nearby. And admittedly, I had a little bit of trouble with this. I tried various roads, upgrading them to bridges and all sorts of things, but I couldn't really find one that I liked or that I thought sort of fit. I'd really like sort of an old stone or weathered stone look, and in the end I just used a stone prop and procedural objects to pretty much just make my own bridge. I did have plans to have the pedestrians walk across this to the start of the walking trail, but I came up with another idea that you'll see next. I thought it would be appropriate that one part of the trail had been upgraded to some sort of modern standard, so this first part here that crosses very close to the base of the waterfall is going to be sort of a viewing platform. Then we're going to go pretty hardcore on the props in this area. I want little wee rubbish bins, trail signs, the names of the trails, all the things you would expect to see here in real life, as well as lots of grass creeping in and leaves scattered around the place. If you look closely, you'll also see a couple of old broken wooden fences just poking out of the bush, and maybe they were used once but not anymore and they're just sort of left there. So I should probably mention too that this is an actual attraction in real life. From what I can see from the pictures, there is an actual spot where you can go up and pretty much go behind the waterfall, which is what we're going to do with our attraction here. Aside from what that looks like being in behind the waterfall, I haven't really seen any photos of the car park at the base of the trail or the trail itself, so all of that is just sort of being made to fit into our little town here. I really do like adding these sorts of things into these places we visit on our journey around Europe. When I think of some of the places that we've been, it's always these sorts of attractions that remind me the most of the places. A memory stamp, if you will. So anyway, here you can see me finishing off these signs, and I'm following suit with the last two episodes and really spending a lot of time getting all these signs right. Then we're going to move over and detail that viewing platform that I mentioned earlier a little bit more, and I want to make this look like weathered block, but make it look like some form of modern construction. So we've got a nice contemporary path on the top with some simple white handrails, and I even put some prop people up there to make it look like a platform. Next, we're going to move on to detailing the shore of the river a little bit more realistically, and I'm using one of my go-to tricks here with Grey Flame's mossy rocks. You can move these in, match them up to the colour of your grass, and these are a really nice edge to the river. If you're wondering how I'm floating these trees in midair to make them look like sort of swampy marshland around the edge of these cliffs, I'm using tree anarchy, which allows me to raise the trees up into the air, or in this case just sort of bushy scrub. And with that, we have completed the start of our trail, and it's time to extend it now. The only part of this trail that I've really seen in real life is there's a small section of it you can see in the background of some photos that zigzags its way up a hill. Again, I'm not too sure if this is the real life trail that leads up behind the waterfall, but that's what I'm going to attempt to do here. Once we get away from that viewing platform we built, it transitions to just pretty much a gravel path. It's got some nice grass around it and a few flowers. There is a couple of fences just so you know which way to go. And eventually it winds its way up the top here and we meet these prop rocks that I've put in around the waterfall, and things start to get very, very tricky here. This is where I need to run the path right up in as close to the waterfall as I can, and then try and sort of make some sort of cavity in behind the waterfall. Unfortunately, I've had to modify the waterfall a little bit here, and I really didn't want to do that for two reasons. One, it's going to create a lot more work for me, and two, I think the more I play around with these rocks, the more unnatural it's going to be. That's been my experience in the past at least. So my idea of just slipping this in behind the waterfall and not touching anything has well and truly been blown out of the water. I have pretty much had to rebuild the entire waterfall, and what I'm doing is I'm using two different colours of rocks. I'm using the darker ones where they may be wet, so directly surrounding the water, and then the lighter rock is pretty much to match the colour of the cliffside. Looking at this now, if there's one thing I could change, it would be I wouldn't have the water so cut into the rock. It seems in real life the water's sort of bouncing off the surface of the rock, and it's not really falling with enough velocity to sort of carve any channels, if you will. And this is a good example of what I meant earlier when I keep buggering around with things and they look unnatural, and as cool as it looks carving into the rocks, the water here, it's not really what we would see in Lauterbrunnen. With that said, I still think it looks really cool, and the colour of these rocks here is matched in so well to the cliff that yeah, it looks pretty organic I think. I'll finish up the rest of the waterfall here, and then we're going to move into the cavity and start detailing it a bit more closely, and that was a real challenge. The first thing I'd like to do in our cave here is place down the entertainment cube that's going to draw the people up here. Then we're just going to sit back, wait a little bit and see if anybody comes up. Margaret and her dog, as well as a handful of other people coming up here and visiting, have really brought this area to life. A couple of chaps have come up in a suit, which is probably a little inappropriate, but they'll learn I'm sure. But this is a perfect example of how the animation of these people can really bring this art form to life. One minute these people are parking in a car park, then walking past some flowers, and then they're behind a waterfall. I just really think that's quite neat. So as simple as it may look in here in terms of props and stuff, it's really going to follow the real life model as closely as I can get. And as far as I can tell, that's just a narrow passage of rock to sort of walk through, and there's a pretty sturdy looking steel fence also for protection that runs up the outside of the path. Some other things I do are turn the path to gravel, put a few rocks around with a few shrubs and like bits of grass growing up here and there, and a little wee sign that may have some information about the falls on it. This car park here is one that we'll see in real life, and I would say it's probably the largest car park in Lauterbrunnen. This is a trend I've seen a lot in these very walkable little towns and villages, is large car parks on the peripheral. There's also a scattering of various chalets in this area. Then we're going to move over to our main street and finish off the last of the few buildings here. This is starting to transition away from the densest part of the main street as the road begins to wind its way down the hillside and across the stream. We start to see more of those grassy areas creeping in here as well as the density starts to spread out. Another notable thing you'll see me do in this area is I put a storage shed over the cogwheel railway station. With that, our main street is pretty well done. We are not quite finished with the main street yet. There's still one more thing that I need to put in here that's very iconic. There is a church with a really cool looking spire that's located right on the outside of this bend, right next to the car park that we put in earlier. There's not a lot of detail around it in real life at all. It's pretty much just a concrete pad, a handful of trees and good access off the road, so that's exactly what I'm gonna do. The time has come to run this cogwheel railway line all the way up to where we're going to situate our next little wee village based on a place in Switzerland called Wengen. So the train station on the end of this line is basically going to be the first building we put down in that town. I also want to mention that I am very pleasantly surprised that there was even a cogwheel railway available on the Steam Workshop. So Cityscapes is responsible for creating that, and Cityscapes also happens to have a really good Swiss series called Verville that's been going for years on their channel. They are from the area, so it's very authentic, and it's definitely been a source of inspiration for me while I've been here in Switzerland. Cityscapes' YouTube channel is linked in the description for any of you guys who are interested in going and having a look. So this line here in real life goes through various tunnels on its way up to Wengen, and that's what we're going to do here. This took a long time. It was very steep and it went for a lot longer than I thought it would, but I wanted to keep it realistically the right steepness. I have absolutely no idea what that is, but I've watched a lot of videos of this going up and I think I'm there or thereabouts. I'm also very excited that we're transitioning into snow for the first time in the series. I'm really looking forward to putting out a video with a first person view coming up the cogwheel. I reckon that'd be really cool. The first thing I want to build up here in the snow is sort of this retaining wall on the outside of the track. From the videos I've watched, it's quite prominent once we get up to this sort of altitude. There's also going to be a handful of other tracks veering off the main line here for storage up at this end of the line. That might be for any cars that need repairs, etc. But the whole point of this retaining wall and the little fence that you're going to see me put down on top of it is to keep this area as authentic as I can. I've placed a shed over the end of these storage lines here, much like I have at the other end of the line, and I want to put some doors in here to make it look a little bit more realistic. This building is actually a Swedish school, I think, but I think it looks pretty good up here. I'm also going to put in a chalet here. In real life, there's big hotels up here, and we're certainly going to get to that in the next couple of episodes, but for now, I'm going to use this one here with procedural objects and make it a bit wider and a bit higher, and then put some various retaining walls around the front. I do plan to come back to detail this area at some point, but it's not going to be now. The next thing I want to do is go and put the train station on the end of the line and get these lines working. There's absolutely no point in detailing anything around this line until I know that it works and people are going to use it to come up. You may also notice that I changed the track to a two-way. There's 2 tracks now, and this means that I can have 2 or 3 cars going at any given time. I was going to keep it single, but it's just too far and the passengers will be waiting for far too long. So once I get that line set up, I can change the budget so that there's enough cars, and thanks to Cityscapes we've also got the right vehicle, so I can put that in and then just check that it's working okay. And I have to say, it works really good. I had to change the speed of it because it was like cornering at 45-degree angles, but at approximately 30 kilometers an hour, it looks good. Thank you guys so much for coming along on the ride today. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. Hitting that thumbs up really helps me out if you have enjoyed it. And for my subscribers, I'm sorry guys, I'm not putting out as much content as I have been in the past. I'm just really busy with work. There's plenty of life left in the series yet, so thank you guys for being patient. Take care of yourselves and each other. I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next episode of Europe in Detail. See you later.